You've been lied to. Pretty much every scary story, every movie, every warning your parents ever gave you about wolves growing up, it was all built on a massive lie. The creature we were all taught to fear, it's actually living the exact kind of life most of us are searching for. So, are wolves really just humans in fur? Well, in this explainer, we're going to tear down everything you thought you knew. And honestly, it might just completely change how you see wolves and how you see yourself.
Think about it for a second. When was the last time someone chose you? And, really chose you and just never stopped? Hold on to that feeling for a moment. Because, let's face it, modern life can feel incredibly isolating, right? And we have this tendency to project our own human loneliness right onto nature, which perfectly sets up our first massive misconception.
Let's dive into part 1, the broken lone wolf, or the myth of the solitary killer. You've heard the phrase, right? Most of us picture wolves as these fierce lone hunters, cold, solo, totally emotionless, creatures built purely to survive, not to love. We've actually built entire cultural identities around this idea of the solitary killer, the tough survivor who needs absolutely nobody.
Hollywood constantly feeds us this dark, aggressive image, but the actual science, it tells a completely different story. Wolves actually mate for life, one partner. And here's the kicker, not because they're forced to by instinct, but because they choose to. They raise their pups together, they hunt side by side, and they quite literally grow old together.
So that whole lone wolf thing, it is not a symbol of rugged strength. Not at all. The lone wolf is simply a wolf that lost someone. They're alone because they're just not ready to stop looking for the partner they lost. Have you ever lost someone you deeply loved, and suddenly it felt like the entire world just went completely quiet? Like everyone else kept rushing around, moving forward, but you completely forgot how to move with them?
That brings us to part 2, the weight of wolf grief and what happens when the pack changes. Nature documentaries always give us this cold, robotic narrative. They make it sound like animals just move on. One dies, just find a new pack. Reset like a little furry machine. No grief, no memory, no pain. But researchers out in the field discovered something that literally stopped them in their tracks.
When a wolf dies, the entire dynamic of the pack shifts. They start howling longer than usual, almost like a cry. They stop eating as much. They physically stay closer to each other. And honestly, this is the most heartbreaking part. They constantly wander over to check the empty spots where that lost wolf used to sleep.
Listen, that is not just cold animal instinct. That is grief. It's the exact same heavy, crushing grief you have felt. The same grief every human has carried in our chest since the dawn of time. Turns out we aren't so different after all.
Now switch gears with me for a second. Have you ever worked for someone who led entirely through fear instead of trust, where literally every decision they made felt like a giant power trip instead of actual care? Yeah, we've all been there, right? We all know the stress of trying to survive toxic leadership.
Which leads right into part 3, the myth of the alpha. Honestly, this is probably the biggest lie in all of nature. The myth of the biggest, baddest dictator who beats everyone else into submission. It's crazy. We've actually turned this myth into a whole human personality type. A completely aggressive leadership style based entirely on dominance.
But reality completely shatters that illusion. Out in the wild, rank-based aggression is basically non-existent. There is no snarling, dominant dictator. The leader of the pack is simply a parent, a mom or a dad, and they lead through care. They lead with patience, through knowing where the food is and spotting where danger hides. Think about it. You don't aggressively dominate your family. You protect them.
And that is what true strength actually looks like. The real alpha is really just a dad who never stops showing up. The strongest leader in a wolf pack looks absolutely nothing like a tyrant. It looks like a patient parent, gently guiding a clumsy little pup. Have you ever slowed down your own pace for someone who just needed a little more time? Or maybe you forced them to keep going and deeply regretted it later. Think back to a moment when someone showed you pure, unearned compassion.
This is part 4, joy, compassion, and home. Slower than the rest. We're constantly told that nature is all about survival of the fittest. The weak fall behind, the strong keep moving. That's just how the ruthless wild works, right?
Wrong. The beautiful reality is no wolf gets left behind ever. Wolf packs intentionally slow down their pace to match their injured members. They don't abandon them. They don't replace them with a stronger wolf. They wait. They even carry food back to the wolves who are too hurt to hunt. In a world supposedly built entirely on cold survival, wolves consciously choose compassion.
Because a pack without all its family members isn't a pack. It's just animals walking alone together.
So, let me ask you this. When was the last time you did something simply because it felt good? Not because it was productive or useful or crossed something off your list, just pure, silly, unproductive joy.
We're always told that adult predators don't play, that everything in nature is strictly a calculated move for survival. But adult wolves? They play all the time. They chase each other through the deep snow. They literally roll down hills just for the fun of it. They'll steal sticks from each other and run away like puppies. Joy wasn't invented by humans. Wolves discovered how to have fun long before we even gave it a name, and they never feel guilty for it.
Have you ever picked up your phone late at night and called someone just to hear their voice? Not because you needed information, not because you needed help. You just needed to know they were still there. Scary movies love to tell us that the wolf's howl is a battle cry, right? Some spooky warning in the moonlight. But the truth? Most wolf howls have absolutely nothing to do with hunting. They howl when they get separated. They howl when they finally find each other again. If you translate a howl, it essentially means, "Where are you? I'm right here. Come home." It's just a family member, standing alone in the dark, asking the people they love to return to them.
So you see, wolves were never the bloodthirsty monsters from our nightmares. They were always a mirror. Everything we consider distinctly, uniquely human, deep love, paralyzing grief, patient leadership, compassion, that late-night longing, wolves were out there living it, thousands of years before we ever had words for any of it.
The next time you're outside and you hear a howl echoing in the dark, don't feel fear, feel recognition.
Because I promise you, that sound you hear out there in the darkness is something that understands you far better than you ever thought possible.